Good evening and welcome to the News 24 English Bulletin. This is Tamima Islam. Those were the headlines, now the details. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has said people of the country are main energetic force of the government. The situation created during the war has to be faced with the people of the country. Like the corona crisis, price of essentials has to be kept within the people's capacity to purchase. At the meeting of the Executive Committee of National Economic Council, ECNEC, she urged to keep the status of the country as a developing country intact after dealing with disasters created by nature and mankind. Akramul Haq Shumon has the details.
Meeting of the Executive Committee of National Economic Council, ECNEC, was held at the NEC Conference Center with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in the chair. The Premier joined the program virtually from Ganobhaban. At that time, she said, welfare of the people and the country, along with return of the invested money, should be kept under consideration in taking up any project. The Premier urged to keep price of essentials within the reach of the people.
প্রতিটি নিত্য প্রয়োজনীয় পণ্য সাধারণ মানুষের ক্রয় ক্ষমতার আওতার মধ্যে যাতে থাকে সে প্রচেষ্টা অব্যাহত রাখতে হবে এবং তার জন্য যা যা করণীয় সেটা আমরা করব। জনগণই হচ্ছে আমাদের সবচেয়ে বড় শক্তি। যেভাবে আমরা করোনা মোকাবেলা করেছি ঠিক সেই একইভাবে এই যুদ্ধের সময় যে অর্থনৈতিক মন্দা দেখা দিয়েছে, যে ভয়াবহতা দেখা দিচ্ছে, এটার থেকে আমাদের দেশকে মুক্ত করতে হবে।
Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina urged to retain the status of developing country.
অন্তত যে অর্জনটা আমরা করেছি, উন্নয়নশীল দেশের মর্যাদা পেয়েছি, এই মর্যাদাটা ধরে রেখে এটা বাস্তবায়ন করে আমরা যেন সামনের দিকে এগিয়ে যেতে পারি, যাতে আমরা 2041 সালের মধ্যে বাংলাদেশকে উন্নত দেশ হিসেবে গড়ে তুলতে পারি। ঝড়ঝাপটা এগুলি আমাদের আছেই, প্রাকৃতিক দুর্যোগ, মনুষ্য সৃষ্টি দুর্যোগ, তাছাড়া এগুলি আমাদের সবসময় মোকাবেলা করতে হবে, সেটা আমরা করতে পারবো।
ECNEC approved 6 projects worth 7,018 crore 73 lakh taka.
কিন্তু সেই জনগণকে উদ্বুদ্ধ
Akramul Haq Shumon, News 24.
Awami League General Secretary Obaidul Qadir has said daydreaming of defeating Awami League sitting on the banks of the Thames River is useless. He said this during a briefing at the Secretariat on Tuesday. He said Awami League was on the street, is on the street and will remain on the street. He also said the Awami League, well organized under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina compared to any time in history, is ready to face the election together. Obaidul Qadir also said the BNP leaders are still daydreaming of the fall of the government. They are making ridiculous statements about the resignation of the government. Agriculture Minister Muhammad Abdul Razak said there is no concern about food crisis in the country as the government has a sufficient stock of rice. At a press briefing at the Secretariat today, the minister said all the ministries are working together to tackle the situation. Razak said famine used to take place at this time of the year, but the government has overcome it. In 2 months, the Aman harvest will begin. The government has 15 lakh tons of rice in stock, which is enough for the period. Meanwhile, the minister said 44 individuals and organizations won Bangabandhu National Agriculture Awards in 2018 and 2019 for their contributions to agriculture. Chief Election Commissioner Qazi Habibul Awal said the Commission has no objection to the Home Ministry's decision to take charge of NIDs. He said there was no relation in between voters and NID. The EC does not have a headache about whether it goes to the government or not. The CEC made the remarks to the reporter at the EC Secretariat in the capital on Tuesday. The CEC said there is no concern about the issue of the DCSP meeting. It was a misunderstanding. He added that CCTV cameras will be set up in polling booths in the Gaibanda 5 by-elections. The Commission has taken all the measures to ensure a free and fair election. The annual conference of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund IMF began in Washington, D.C. in USA. The two mighty development partners termed the Russia-Ukraine conflict a senseless war. They said most developing countries like Bangladesh cannot repay the loan. The World Bank and IMF urged the stakeholders to work together to tackle the situation. Farooq Hussain has the details with Babu Kamruzaman's story from the USA.
After 3 years, the World Bank and IMF hold the annual conference in Washington, D.C. in the USA. Representatives from 188 countries were waiting eagerly for the conference to begin on Monday. On the first day of the conference, the objectives of the meeting became clear with the talks with the World Bank President David Malpass and Managing Director of the International Monitoring Fund, Kristalina Georgieva. The Russia-Ukraine war pushed the world economy into uncertainty. The loss could reach $4 trillion compared to the economy of the Germany.
And that the total amount that would be wiped out by the slowdown of the world economy is going to be between now and 2026, $4 trillion. This is the size of Germany GDP gone.
The World Bank president expressed concern about the repayment of loans by developing countries in the current recession.
IDA countries, the poorest countries, would have to put out $44 billion of their money. Some of it comes from our two institutions to pay the creditors, almost all of whom live in wealthy countries. So I think we need to really have an urgent focus on reducing the unsustainable debt.
Meanwhile, the Bangladesh Bank governor led 8 team members participating at the conference. The governor said though the World Bank expressed concern about developing countries' loan repayments, Bangladesh is capable of repaying the loans.
In 2020, they asked us to delay the repayment, but we reject the offer. We said that we are capable of repaying the loans.
The result of Bangladesh's application for a $4 billion loan and budget support from the IMF would be known after a week-long discussion. Farooq Hussain, News 24.
The by-election for the Gaibandha 5 constituency, which fell vacant following the death of Deputy Speaker Fazle Rabbi Mia, is set to be held tomorrow. This is the first time the constituency is using electronic voting machines, EVMs, instead of traditional ballot papers. Voting will start at 8 a.m. and continue till 4 p.m. at 145 polling centers in Pulchari and Shagota Upajilas. The constituency has some 3,39,434 voters from 17 unions. Most of the election equipment, including EVMs, was handed over to the election officers and presiding officers of the respective upajilas. 1,242 CCTV cameras have been installed at the polling centers. On top of that, members of the police and Ansar will also be present to ensure a peaceful election environment. Banners and posters from Gazipur schools were removed following reports by News24 television. The removal began in the morning. Students and guardians were happy with the decision. Earlier, the educational institutions in Gazipur were covered with banners and festoons of ruling party leaders ahead of the Awami League conference. Education is hampered due to the political publicity surrounding educational institutions. Later, the leaders sat at a meeting and decided to remove the banners and festoons. Gazipur Metropolitan Awami League Konabari conference on October. Defending champions Bangladesh were eliminated from the group stages of the Women's Asia Cup following a washout against the UAE in their last round-robin match in Sylhet on Tuesday. Bangladesh, who beat India in the final of the last edition 4 years ago, finished 5th on the table with 5 points from 6 matches after sharing a point each with the UAE in the abandoned match on Tuesday. A win against UAE would have ensured Bangladesh a last 4 spot given their superior net run rate over Thailand. But rain forced a complete washout without a ball bowled. Thailand, who have 6 points from 6 matches, go into the semi-finals alongside 6-time champions India as well as Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Bangladesh is to play its second match in the ongoing Tri-Nation Series against New Zealand tomorrow. The series serves as a warm-up for the upcoming T20 World Cup. Bangladesh's team has failed to win a T20 match in New Zealand in 8 attempts. They have lost 7 out of their 8 games against New Zealand, showing how challenging it is to compete at their highest level under these circumstances. The Bangladesh cricket team's recent performances in the T20 format haven't been impressive. They have won 4 out of 12 matches this year, but all of the wins have come against weaker opponents or teams at the same level. That's all from the newsroom today. Thank you for watching News 24. Please stay with us.